Star Trek 57, M23, take 2.
It's got Star Trek. Episode 56, Discovery, Season 3, Episode 10, Terra Firma, Part 2.
One night, I let you go. And you ended up sleepwalking into a field of fireflies. You stood there until you became calm. And I could carry you to your bed. I walked with you every night to that field after that. And when you woke up the next day, you never remembered. I was sad when you outgrew your night terrors. Now when I think about it, maybe you never did. If you trust me, I will bring all the fireflies to you, daughter.
What? How about that zoom shot at the beginning? That was thwarted.
Dan was thwarted again. All right, give it another try, Dan.
What about that crazy? How about shit? How about that?
Okay, we've rehearsed this, Dan. We fucking rehearsed this.
We'll just do it. Cut it out and post. No.
All right.
No, we need the honest truth, the raw energy. How about that crazy zoom in shot? You know, of the Discovery at the beginning. It went through the disc. It went through the disc. And,
and they did that.
And you notice it had the old connectors. That's how you know it's the old Discovery, because it had the connector bridges.
Oh, right.
between.
Yeah, totally.
And there was some kind of sparky things between when they went under the disc. When they went through the disc, there were these weird sparky machines making sparks.
Wasn't it people doing or robots doing work?
Oh, was it robots doing work? That would make
I think
sense.
they were welding.
Thought, yeah.
But what were they
It's like the
constantly
it's
fucking
the
welding.
ISS
Yeah.
Discovery.
Is Discovery getting in that many battles that they have to constantly be?
They have all those
Captain
rebellions. they're
Captain
putting
Killy.
Captain Killy.
Killing people.
She's always killing people.
Shooting them up with her ship.
Shooting them up, right?
No, I like the zoom in shot too.
She likes killing people.
Oh, we should welcome people to the podcast.
Oh.
Welcome to the It's Got Star Trek podcast, episode 56, I think.
Yeah.
Seems like it, right?
Sure.
Seems about
So,
right.
That's what I got.
Episode 56, in which the three of us will be discussing Star Trek Discovery Season 3, Episode 10? Terra Firma Part 2.
I was thinking we have like 3 episodes left, and then we're going back to what we were doing before, I guess, or I don't know. We haven't really talked about that, but that's my assumption. But I was also thinking that there seems to be spin-offs happening. There seems to be a lot going on in Star Trek.
There's a lot going on in Star Trek.
Are we going to have a year-round season of Star Trek that we can...
I don't know. We don't
Star
know.
Trek.
It all depends on how much fucking money this audience sends us.
Yeah.
We haven't actually provided a way for you to do that.
Yeah,
So,
but we're going to be hostile towards you anyway. Because number one way of getting money and being appreciated is to be hostile towards your audience.
and if you're a true fan, you'll track us down and deposit money into our personal bank accounts.
So get to work.
Yeah, get to work. So Terra Firma Part 2. So last week we covered Part 1. So you can go back and listen to that episode if you missed that one, and we'll get you up to speed. Now we're at Part 2. And yeah, opens up with a cool shot into the ship. Of course, there's still the whole like Discovery has like weird, huge amounts of open space.
Oh yeah,
they made it a little bit better this time, but it's still, I know it aggravates people. It doesn't aggravate me that much.
Well, when the short trek, when they were caught in the elevator and there was you saw all the turbo lift tubes just kind of.
It was in one of the short treks, but also in some of the episodes where it does seem odd that there's a bunch of open space there. It aggravates me a little, not as much as some folks on the internet. But
yeah, you just kind of wonder what's going on over there. You it like that?
Yeah,
I don't remember so many of the zoom shots going in through walls. Usually,
I guess that's less common.
Yeah, so you got a new one there on that. Mira Burnham, she was always gritting her teeth. That's one thing. Like she's always like, I can't do it on the, because this is an audio format, but she was always, she's always like, and she was very deliberate with her like open mouth, movements, between gritting teeth and like pushing her tongue against the edge of her teeth.
Jesus.
And moving her lips
Paying
around.
attention to this.
Sort of rippling her lips around as she talked, and made combos of that. Yeah, I was watching. I couldn't stop looking at her mouth in just an interested way. It's totally, just kind of like, wow, her mouth is moving in all sorts of ways, Now,
Mirror Michael is played pretty awesomely by Sonequa Martin Green, who I think clearly enjoys playing this role. She's having a lot of fun doing it.
She was insulting Burnham's. She goes, half of your insipid death opera was a lie, right? But is it really an opera? But they call Star Wars a space opera, right?
Yeah, what was she talking about? Insipid death opera?
I think Stamets' little
like
rhyming
that
spiel.
thing. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I
wondered if it was that.
I mean, it was my understanding that in order to qualify as an opera, you have to sing throughout the whole thing, basically. And if you're not singing, you do, what is that? Is that recitative where they do like the sing talking?
It's still, it's
like
still sort of singing.
When they're like, I am going to the door. What is this outside? It's a package for me.
Yeah.
Oh boy, it's a package for me. Oh boy, it's a package for me. And then it breaks
pretty
into-
much.
Yeah.
It's still singing.
Yeah, it's still singing, but it's kind of like, we're really all just, I said that before. we're really all just
You
singing.
could also take it as a half insult by calling it an opera.
I don't even think there was any singing in that.
No, there was some.
No, there was just some rhyming.
There was some that fabric dancing,
Yeah.
There was.
You know,
that
like
was more like
rolling-
Cirque du Soleil.
rolling up and
But-
down the fabric.
People often refer to Star Wars as a space opera, and so I think they just use the word opera to mean something epic, and they associate it with space somehow. It's often associated with space.
Yeah.
I mean,
myth, fantasy, large themes,
Right.
heroes and villains.
like you
Big
wouldn't call
things
like you
sliding
wouldn't
around in space.
right. You wouldn't call the Odyssey an opera, right?
Not really.
No, see, but it is epic.
it is an epic, but not an opera.
Yeah.
I think an opera might be based on an epic, but an epic is not an opera.
Well, I'll leave that to you to figure out because you're smarter in that area than I am.
We'll leave it to the internet.
We'll leave it to the internet.
We'll
So
leave
what
it
do you-
out there to the internet.
So what's the deal, internet, with this whole Star Wars being called a space opera? Is that fair? And also, when Stamets' rhyming scheme, when they were doing the Cirque du Soleil, that's not really an
It's
opera
not true
either.
recitative.
who are
Yeah.
these literary genres?
Yeah, exactly.
So, sometimes Discovery will have like a crazy long teaser. This was like 6 or 7 minutes or something like that. So it was like decently long.
Sometimes, like you get a whole bunch of episode and then it goes to the title music. And you're
Yeah.
like, wow, that's-
But the main thing being, the whole, Georgiou trying to, be like, oh, I'll totally get Michael back on my side. And then I went to the opening credits, and I just wanted to speak briefly to the opening credits because I'll state outright, I very much enjoyed this episode. I have a few like nitpicks here and there, but one of them is I thought the opening credits were dumb.
Because I didn't even notice it at first, but they just did it.
They did a negative image and turned it upside down.
Yeah.
Mirrors don't turn things upside down.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it was funny.
And the music was the same.
The music was the same. The color, the negative color, I guess I'm assuming what is blue the opposite of red. I don't know. Is that the negative of red is blue? But anyways, yeah, it was
It
everything
just did
was
like a
different.
Photoshop filter or something.
Yeah, they just changed everything because the flowery thing that looks like a bird that when the Discovery goes by, it's this kind of abstract thing, and that's usually red, and it was blue. And it was really, and I feel like it almost kind of like worked, but then you see the Discovery flying by upside down,
Yeah.
and it's just kind of like,
I was confused by it because first, I think they were, I don't know if it was a last minute thing, if they had a bigger plan or whatever. Enterprise did this properly, right? Enterprise has a 2-parter in the Mirror universe, and they completely changed the opening theme. The music is a little touch different, and the imagery is changed up a little bit. So they went full on with it. They're like, this is what the what the opening to this show would be like if it were in the Mirror universe. This, I think, failed at that, and it was like a weird misstep because, and I agree with you, it's like especially the Discovery flying upside down, and also the little helper robot guys just being upside down. It's like,
that too.
again, mirrors don't turn things upside down. They create a mirror image.
They only do it if you take have you ever done that trick with the spoon where you make the spoon go far away and it turns everything upside down? But that's because they're curved.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
they're, I don't remember.
It's changing your focal points and,
Yeah.
and whatnot.
But a proper mirror Yeah.
Anyway, I was a little bit aggravated by that.
It's weird because I didn't even notice it till the second time. And I was like, I think the first time I was like, is something different? Are they changing this up?
Well,
and I was like, no, they're not just subtly changing things. They just changed the whole thing.
I think I was paying extra attention because I expected that they might do something like they did on that Enterprise episode where it was like, let's do something radically different. And so maybe that also plays into my disappointment where I thought they were going to do some cool Empire version, Terran Empire version of the opening credits. But it's not a big deal.
These episodes are weird, these kind of episodes, because, okay, so I kept thinking about, and it's not the same thing, but the episode of Breaking Bad where there's like a fly in the room.
I think it's called The Fly.
Oh yeah, I think you're right. And a lot of people hated that episode, and I think a lot of people, and also I thought it was a pretty good episode, but like a lot of people didn't like that Lost episode too, where it focused on these two random people that were criminals or something. And I don't know if this crossed into that territory, because I did enjoy it, but I don't, and it's not necessarily to say it's a bad thing to walk into that territory, because like I said, I like that Breaking Bad episode. The Lost episode is not so great, but where it's kind of like a diversion. It feels like a diversion from the main plot, and I guess the purpose, of course, is to set up, the spin-off, so there's a reason for it. But that's all the more reason to be like, okay, we're kind of taking a break from what's going on in Discovery to do this thing, and that's kind of tricky because you kind of want to, it's like you get all hyped. It was like, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? And then you get to the next week's episode and you're just like, oh, it's going to we're not getting to that yet. We're doing something else.
Because there wasn't any development with the thing that they're actually working on Discovery with Stamets and Adira. Like, I mean, you see them and they're working on something, but there isn't any more.
Right.
That happens with that. Like,
right.
You see them a little bit here and there, but
all that happens is like,
there's no results.
There's no results.
Book helps them, and they
helps
get a little bit more information.
And Admiral Vance was being kind of weird too, because so he was annoyed because it was Emerald Chain tech, and I guess that makes sense from a security standpoint, because
it's like you steal some Russian tech and stick it into an NSA computer. You might be like a little worried about that.
Yeah, right. But and I guess he didn't know Book enough to trust him. But if it was like Saru or Burnham that found something like that. Because you see, I'm sure there's been episodes where, and I can't think of any off the top of my head, but usually people are all about getting enemy tech, It's like, oh, I got their tech, now I can
They're
fight.
always plugging it in. Sometimes they plug it into data.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Which seems cavalier, but... So I'm sure that's... and so it seems like, generally speaking, it's a good idea to use enemy tech because that gives you an edge, but there is also the concern, right? Like, you shouldn't... If you find a USB... drive on the ground, like a thumb drive, you shouldn't just go ahead and stick it in your computer, because that could cause, you don't know what that could cause.
Virus.
Yeah, and so I guess it was just an issue of him not trusting Book yet, because Book seemed pretty confident that it was okay. So, but I was just wondering if Admiral Vance was just against the idea altogether, or if he just
maybe they're trying to just
add.
It felt a little bit like just manufacturing a little bit of extra drama to propel that particular plot line forward, unless it has a follow-up. It could be that there's some follow-up where it turns out, it allowed the Osira to hack into the Discovery computer. Maybe that actually will happen next week. Who knows?
I mean, he kind of set himself like he's walking into that because he was saying, trust me, I've been using it for years, it's no problem at all. And then maybe we'll find out, I've been tracking you for years. So who knows? Yeah, it could be that too. So I don't know. They didn't make it real clear what his Admiral Vance's problem with it was, though, which I wish they would have made it a little bit more clear what he was worried about. But I guess it doesn't really matter that much. It's kind of
it's interesting. You talk about the diversion from the main plot line for the season, and in some ways, absolutely, I 100% agree that it does throw off the pace of the season somewhat, because we're now dealing with this other thing over 2 episodes, and then we'll come back to the main plot. On the other hand, it is one way to sort of break up the season in people are pining for episodic style Star Trek. We don't have that, but it is breaking things up a bit. I think the problem is it's you're trying to have both, and it's kind of tricky to have both.
Well, I don't know if it would have been right, and I see what the point you're making about breaking up the season with that. I don't know, because the thing is Georgiou did need a proper,
send off.
That's the word. Goodbye, farewell. No, send off is the word I was looking for. And 2-part episode, sure, give her 2 parts to figure out why she's leaving. But Could that have been done in that other show? I don't know, but that seemed like marketing. It would be a better idea to put it in Discovery because it's kind of like an ad. It's not really an ad for the other show, but if you've been refollowing on the internet, you're like, oh, you know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it sort of sets it up better to be like, because you saw this, and even without all that, if you see all this on Discovery, then you see ads for the new show, and you're like, oh shit, now we get to see what's happening with Georgiou, and that's awesome. So yeah, I don't know. I guess this was really the best way to do it.
Do you think they could have done it in one episode? Or do you think, or would that have crammed it in too tightly?
Yeah, they could have done it in one episode because I mean, some of those it seems like there were maybe a couple of first season Discoveries where it was just like longer. I mean, not just the pilot ones, but like there were a couple like in the middle of the season where it was just seemed like longer. It's like, okay, well they're changing up the duration a little bit, so they could have just done that and just done like a little bit longer episode.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they're trying to sort of plan for a future where they play it on TV or something. I don't know.
It seems like it because there's all those like places for ad breaks, and stuff
right?
Like that.
They might have been able. Yeah, they might have been able to do it in one episode because they didn't even get to the Terran. Georgiou didn't even walk through the door to like halfway through part 1.
Even more than that, I think.
Yeah.
Right, and then the climax of that happened, and there was still 15 to 20 minutes left in the episode after the climax. So we have this climax, and now we have this other sort of 15 minutes of setting up to leave, you know. And so yeah, they might have been able to do it in one. It's interesting that what's his name, Carl. That was awesome introduction.
Carl.
I loved how campy his introduction was. As the dude of dude.
The guardian of forever.
Yeah, that was kind of. I mean, how'd you feel about that?
Well, I liked it. You mean like when he said he was the guardian of forever and like the door turned into the portal thing?
Yeah, and it was just like
I liked it.
It was all like I can't remember, but I'm guessing that was pulled directly from a previous
from the TOS episode.
Yeah,
and I the first time I watched it, I was like thrown off a little, and I was a little cheesy.
It was cheesy, but it's also kind of spooky.
The second time, I thought it worked out a little bit better.
It's kind of funny, yeah.
Yeah,
but I really did like for lack of a better term, the construction of the Guardian of Forever gate. That special effect looked pretty badass.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. So they sent. And it's interesting because they sent her back to a place where the mirror universe and the prime universe have not separated yet, I guess. So that
or are closer together.
Closer. Yeah.
Do you have a speculation for when she's being sent to?
I heard it was like the 20th century.
Oh, you said that before, right?
Did I say that already? Yeah.
No, but you said that last episode or something. But no, it's good that you bring that up again because.
Does she play like a sassy private eye in the 1970s San Francisco?
I hope so.
I would guess that they might actually send her back to a period somewhere in the zone of TNG DS9 Voyager. Mm-hmm. It's just a guess, but I'm just trying to think what are people interested in? They're interested in some more live action stuff going on there. It could be post Lower Decks. It could be pre TNG.
Right. I was getting the impression though. So the line they used was or the word they used was the phrase they used. It was sending her back.
The colloquialism.
The thing.
The hip new slang.
Yeah.
Fresh off of UrbanDictionary.com.
They sent her back. He sent her back to the mirror universe. He sent her back when the mirror and the prime universe were still aligned. That's what he said. He said when they were aligned. So what I took that to mean, and I was completely off base with like Man in the Glasses, his plans with Georgiou. I thought there was some kind of treachery going on there, and apparently, I don't know. There could still be some treachery, But if there's treachery, I think it might be in a different direction. But he was talking about how, over time, the universes have been moving apart, right? Over time. So what I took from it, and this obviously can be totally wrong, but how I interpret it is that they're going to go to a point when the mirror universe was created, because he said they were drifting apart. So when the mirror universe happened and when they were one, implying that
they split off,
implying that something created that mirror universe, kind of like, I guess, sort of, kind of, not really like all good things or whatever.
Sure,
but
absolutely,
but yeah. So back to the point where this gets created, and then from that point on, it's
maybe that's the 20th century, as Jesse has heard.
Yeah, so that
putting his ears to the rumor mill.
So when the glasses guy Cronenberg, when he was talking about them drifting apart, I thought it was just because like, oh, they were adjacent to each other, and then for some weird reason they started drifting apart. And then this would imply to me that they were actually drifting apart from the very beginning. They created and they immediately...
I think that's a good theory. I was basing my theory off of a similar logic, but my logic thinking that the mirror universe and the prime universe were actually somewhat close together during the, say, DS9 time period, because that's when there's lots of crossing happening, and it seems to be happening like easier. Like TOS was sort of a fluke, right? Enterprise, as I recall, is not even a crossing. Enterprise takes place entirely in the mirror universe, that storyline.
Oh, yeah.
There's not even actual crossing.
So you think
it's the Defiant crossing and going back in time from the TOS Tholian episode.
So you think it might be... So to summarize... I got this right. The DS9 TNG time period would be good because it seems like they're most facilitated in being able to cross back and forth.
And I was just thinking maybe that's where they're still super close, and the idea being they're sending her back to around that time, presumably not to deal with the mirror universe at all, but just because that's where her molecules will be the most satisfied, right? That's the medical issue. She needs to get as close as possible, ideally back in her old universe, but second best would be prime universe, but when her old universe is not too out of whack.
I was assuming that they would go back to her old Terran universe at first, and I kind of hope that they don't. Not that it would be bad, it's just I'm kind of interested in something new. Like, I get the point of this whole Terran, like,
exactly.
debacle and, like, power struggle and stuff. I'm kind of over it.
It's only fun from time to time.
Yeah, right.
It's got to be used sparingly.
Yes.
Like certain fancy salts.
Is saffron supposed to be used sparingly?
Saffron's just expensive.
Yes.
If it were less expensive, I think you would use a shitload of it.
Yeah, it's given to you sparingly.
Kind of tastes funny.
I don't know that I could point out the taste of saffron, but I know what it looks like, and I know they put it in paella.
Point right at that taste. So you talk about, okay, so we were talking about the whole 2-episode thing, and that clearly in it, this is sending Georgiou off. We know she's going to get her own spin-off show at some point, and we will speculate more about that in the future. But you mentioned, Dan, that maybe a lot of this story could have just been told on that show as the setup to that show. I think part of the thing is, in addition to needing a good story to send her off, is they also needed to complete this redemption arc for Georgiou, and I think this is where you'll see a lot of discussion out there in the world. Because there are people who simply will not forgive Georgiou because she was sort of a genocidal, murderous dictator for a while. And to me, it's a really interesting question because I totally sympathize with the view that maybe you shouldn't forgive the dictator, even if they say they've gotten better. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, the Star Trek thing to do would be to assume that there is a way for this person to come back to the good side, right? It's the Star Trek thing. It's the Star Wars thing. It's the Lord of the Rings thing. This like eternal faith in the idea that you should be able to forgive somebody. They're very Christian in a way.
Totally Christian.
It seemed so when it was an interesting switch from when, like, she was telling Culber how she wants to, hang his head on her wall, and that would be so awesome because he's trying to help her and she's feeling, insecure and yet, like, she has to put up her defenses. So she's just like being like over the top. She was over the top in that episode where she kept like getting on Culber's case, like telling him, was like, I'm going to eat your children or whatever it was she was saying. Yeah. And maybe, and I guess you could just say that was just like sort of the last throes of what she sort of knew in that life, because she did pull a 180. Now it's all relative, right? When she went to the mirror universe, she seemed like a saint. And like I said, of course, it's all relevant, like, because she seemed like a saint because she didn't want to murder Kelpians, and stuff like that.
And she just tortured people instead of killing them.
Even Saru was like, you got to be careful. They're going to kill you.
Yeah.
Where are you from?
I wonder if he figured out that she was from somewhere else when she referred to her friend Saru, because his name's Saru, and that might have been the moment of, that was like a threshold moment, right? Is that what they call it? Passing a threshold, I guess, when she was talking to Saru about, like, not
like the Voyager episode Threshold?
No. Wait, is that the one where they turn into lizards?
Maybe. Why don't you go watch it and find out?
Hey, that's funny. We had sex. I know. Ha, crazy. Weird. Okay, Captain, back to work. We were lizards, by the way. You were good in bed.
They were amphibians, Dan.
Oh, shit.
big giant salamanders. Anyway, you were saying.
I was saying, so she made this sort of flip to, but you could tell, on the other hand, you could tell the difference when she came back from Mirror Universe. She was super not Philippa anymore, like not Mirror Philippa anymore. She was like a brand new person. So I guess going to the Terran universe, she seemed relatively, because she wasn't crazy psychopath like all them, she didn't seem like a crazy killer, so it made her seem like she was a saint. But then when she actually came back, she, like, all of her fronts got put down, you know, she just, all of her defense mechanisms, and she was like the Philippa kind of in the Prime universe. And so, I don't know, I guess that whole Terran experience somehow, like, it was a fast movement, fast change.
So I guess the question is whether you buy it in terms of it. Was it a too fast of a character development or not?
Yeah, it's hard to say because it was basically a 2-episode turn for her, you know. I mean, over the course of the episodes, you got the impression that she was, like, you know, getting more and more, you know, like. And
we've mentioned in the past, we've mentioned in previous episodes, even this season, that she's clearly not, you know, she's not like murdering people.
Right. Know? Right. And so she is better, but there's this 2-episode thing where she goes from, like, saying really fucked up shit to Culber, and then she goes to Terran and doesn't want to murder everyone, and then she goes back to the future, and then she is suddenly, you know, just like Philippa from the Prime universe. So that was kind of a 2-part switch in that happening. It kind of like was happening over time, but then it kind of just switched. And I guess you could just argue that she was going over, like I said, she was going overboard with Culber before because it was just like her last throes of death of what her previous
She didn't know how to
was.
act otherwise. From a production standpoint, for my money, they needed to complete her redemption ahead of her next show, because one of the criticisms there was why do I want to watch a show that follows a genocidal maniac, right? I will push back against people who argue that this is not a Star Trek thing to do, because Star Trek has given 2nd, 3rd, and 4th chances to evil, horrible villains before. I mean,
like that fucking Khan guy.
Yeah, Khan and Space Seed. Khan.
Give me a break.
First of all, Khan took over the ship in Space Seed and did a bunch of fucked up shit, and they knew who he was and his involvement in the eugenic wars, and they still at the end were like, all right, sorry for the misunderstanding, here, have a fucking planet.
Yeah, you're all right, just go over here and don't mess with it.
This is SETI Alpha 5! and then I was also thinking of Gul Dukat, who is introduced to us as effectively the commandant of a planet-wide concentration camp, where they are strip mining the resources.
Would you say he wasn't ever redeemed though? Like he was sympathetic from time to time.
That's my point. I will make the point that the counterpoint is that Khan, it didn't work out well for Khan in the end, and it didn't work out well for Gul Dukat in the end. But Gul Dukat was often a sympathetic character, or even comedic character.
Like when you hurt his butt, him and Kira were on that
was
planet,
pretty
and
hilarious.
He hurt his butt.
And he was a complex character. And I guess my argument is not that there's no criticism for this, but that the criticism should be consistent, right? It should be consistent about, there are these other examples in Star Trek that, for better or worse, you could argue part of the Star Trek philosophy is to allow for the possibility that somebody can improve themselves. Which I think is a good message in general. Yeah. Whether it's realistic that's a different argument, and whatever.
Yeah, and then does it matter if it's realistic or not? That's always the question too, of what really matters about if you're telling a story. You know, anything can always be questioned, but at some point you just got to be like, whatever. But
I can see it impacting somebody's enjoyment of a show.
Yeah.
So I respect that. For me, I'm willing to just enjoy the story, to say, okay, this person has now redeemed themselves. And I think they did themselves a favor, because they're like, we've shown this person redeem themselves, and to put a little button on top of it, we had a godlike creature declare that she has redeemed herself.
Yeah.
By giving talking about weighing her soul, like in Egypt, where they would weigh your heart against the feather of Ma'at, the goddess of truth and justice, right? It's like, okay.
That's a pretty like primeval sort of symbolism.
It's canon that she's redeemed. You can always argue that. You can be like, I don't buy it, but the space-time god guy said it, so I'll take it as true. I think it was clever for them to do that.
I think the episode and a little bit of the season here and there has been sort of talking about this idea. It began with Glasses Man. the first meeting when he was trying to get under Georgiou's skin. Kovich, thank you. Kovich.
Glasses man.
I know. I felt a little ridiculous
Glasses
after a
man
while.
from Canada.
He's not man with cigarette. Kovich. When he was trying to get under Georgiou's skin by saying that Terrans are predisposed to treachery because of genes, basically, right? And he was just kind of bullshitting her. But this kind of like this, it's saying that there's another way. Like, there's one point where Burnham says, "There's no other way. There's an iron fist and there's death," meaning that the only two choices are like just be fucked up to people and always win, or die. And Burnham is pointing out that this is the only way that things could function. And it's interesting because we always think, it's easy to think like, oh, this is just how it works. This is what this music sounds like, or this is what, this food tastes like, or this is how this, government is structured. That's just the way it is. There's no other way to really do it. And there's no other way that we got here the way we did. And so she's pointing that out. And this episode especially... So that was first introduced by Kovich back then, basically saying, you're predisposed to this. He was messing with her, and her saying like, no, we're not predisposed to this. And in this episode, she's super like trying to change things. And so and it proves it's possible because she changed herself. And so I think that whether or not however it was implemented, and whether or not people agree with the idea of, how much redemption will you allow someone, the fact is that Georgiou is trying to better this Terran universe, and to people like Burnham and probably Georgiou back a long time ago, it was basically like, what are you talking about? That's silly. This is just how we're doing it. And so you could mistake that for being in someone might mistake that for it being in their genes to think like that. And that's kind of a dangerous route. Of course, we know to get on that is like, oh, it's in their genes to be like assholes, that's not cool. And so this is kind of saying like, Georgiou left and came back, and she's proving that no, it's not in their genes.
They can be influenced by their environment.
Yeah, exactly.
And the people they interact with and the relationships they develop. Mm-hmm. I mean, clearly the message is that her relationship with Michael Burnham from the Prime universe has benefited her, as well as her interactions with the other folks. As ridiculous as she could be sometimes.
Who, Burnham?
No, Georgiou.
Oh,
Sorry,
Georgiou.
Georgiou's relationship with the crew of the Discovery was, of course, it's an example similar with the Gold Ducat, where she had these comical moments. I mean, some really, really good comical moments, and then sometimes you think in your back of your head is like, I'm pretty sure she ordered like lots of children, just melted down.
Right.
They were eating Kelbians.
Right.
They would just eat those guys.
But she stopped.
For dessert and shit. Main course, appetizer.
New Georgiou put a stop to that, though.
Too much cholesterol.
Yeah. Burnham was talking about
stringy meat.
Burnham was talking about craving the ganglia. And did you see that dinner?
Craving the ganglia. That's talking about all that hip new slang from the UrbanDictionary.com. That's the teens are all using it. I'm craving the ganglia.
Yeah.
We think it means drugs.
Yeah. Yeah, because you crave it. And it's so good.
Yeah. Or cheese.
Cheese is good.
Yeah.
But sometimes you eat too much cheese and you get weird things happen to you.
I think
Weird
drugs
That happens with drugs, too.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Weird dreams, weird things. Their dinner was really colorful. It looked like just a bunch of vegetables, though. But there was something that looked kind of like meat, but it also looked like mostly vegetables. But I couldn't figure out what
was
was
more
trying to
meat.
figure out. Looked like she was eating a plate of Legos or something.
I think there was like one bit that was like some tasty looking meat deliciousness.
I thought I saw some fat marbling in one of those things. It's always fun to look at what they're eating in Star Trek. That's always, I don't know if that's something that they try to,
Welcome to what they're eating in Star Trek.
I don't know if that's something they try to make sure to do is make
Captain Kirk eating a fish.
Make their food look super interesting.
It's a pike.
But it's like always does look interesting. So, why do they do that? Because it's awesome. And it's just like, it's probably some secret like tradition they have or something.
Who's they?
The people who like are in charge of
the production crew?
Basically the equivalent of the Star Trek Illuminati, the people behind
the Star Trek Illuminati.
The people that do the catering.
What would the phrase be that would represent what would be the portmanteau of something Star Trek with Illuminati?
Trecolati.
Trecolati.
That sounds like a coffee.
Yeah. I don't know.
This is some high level improv right here. Using big words and
Trecolati seemed like it was pretty good.
Trecolati does sound like either a coffee or some sort of a chocolate that you melt onto some other dessert. You know, we're gonna have some ice cream with some chocolate on top.
Right, it's like
and
magic show.
Chocolate and sprinkles.
I don't know, the the Section 31. It's like the Section 31 people of the meta Star Trek, you know, that are behind the scenes that make sure certain traditions are kept up. Of course, you talk to a random person on the internet and they'd say like, "Oh, well, nobody informed." Wait, what's the name of the guy who did the new Star Trek that everyone blames?
J.J. Abrams.
No, not J.J. Abrams. Sorry, I meant the guy who did the series.
Alex Kurtzman.
Yeah, Alex Kurtzman. It's like, well, they should have sent those people to Alex Kurtzman because he doesn't believe in Star Trek. I read some post on Reddit saying
The beam me up a lottie.
Beam me up a lot. Sure.
That's pretty good.
I was reading a post and it's just some random dude or person or whatever, and they were saying that Alex Kurtzman has gone on record saying that he hates Star Trek. And like, I was like,
What?
Someone was like, can you provide that link? And I looked at the link and all he was talking about
Was
was
it like
like
from Fox News or something?
it was just on Reddit. It was no,
OAN.
the link the link was just saying that he appreciated Star Wars. And so the guy took it to be like he hates
Oh yeah,
Star
no,
Trek.
people just make
Oh my
shit
God.
up.
Yeah, it was totally made up, and he provided the fucking link too. And to like, it's like there's nothing in
Oh,
here.
it's maddening out there, right? So, you know, for the younger folks among us, the internet used to be this wonderful wild. They called it the wild
There were
west,
some pretty
but-
dark sides too.
Oh, there was a bunch of fucked up shit, but it was a lower population density, right? so
Yeah.
so it was hard, you know, you had to go out of your way to find you know, to encounter evil shit. There was plenty of obnoxious shit there too, but these days it's ridiculous because it's just a bunch of people just making up a bunch of nonsense,
Yeah, they're just
and it's
making shit up.
to support perplexing views, and like one of them is this whole like all new Star Trek is bad. Hey, that's a valid opinion. Go for it. That's 100% valid opinion. But you don't need to be watching it, right? And like making YouTube videos and doing all this other crazy stuff and just making shit up. Now, making a YouTube video, like if you get a kick out of, you know, critiquing a show you don't like with YouTube videos, that's awesome. That's more power to you. It's the making shit up that's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like, it's Star Trek. It's a fucking TV show, and you're like making shit up that the producers are saying. Come on.
Yeah, just to try to like find some validation in some part of your aspect of your life.
I guess it's a form of trolling, but like, come on. It's like, you know, the people, you know, we all grew up with at least one person who always would cheat at board games, and you'd be like, what's the point of cheating at the board game? That doesn't prove anything.
Right.
You quote unquote won, but you haven't proven anything to yourself or nobody. It's a board game.
Where did you get all those armies from?
It's like when people cheat at, you know, an online shooter or something, and they do the invincibility code for a multiplayer shooter, and they play it. It's like if you want to, like, you know, go through single player and invincible, I guess that can be kind of fun to be silly from time to time. But to habitually go and play online multiplayer while you're invincible,
Yeah.
Can't you
It's
find?
not an accomplishment.
Yeah, but I think some people just take it as some people. I think convince themselves that it's all part of the game, and if you can get away with it, that means that you're skilled at getting away with it. But it's like that's just kind of breaking the agreement of fun, because you know there's different games and they have rules, and it's this made up world we live in when we're playing these games, and that's what's fun is that it's this invented construct and that you get to play in, and if you just keep trying to find ways to break it, I don't know, maybe it's a conspiracy thing where they want to, like, you know, get out of the Matrix or something, and that's how only way they can do it is they're so mad.
You have to cheat your way out of the Matrix.
They're so mad and they can't bring themselves to be a flat earther, so the only way that they can feel that they can beat the lizard people coming down is to cheat at freaking Risk, you know.
Part of what makes it perplexing to me is that though I dislike it, I understand if somebody's cheating in real life. I'm against that on principle.
Yeah, like when there's money involved. And
but
stuff.
precisely, there is a logic to, okay, I'm going to break this rule that I think I can get away with, and as a result of that, we'll have access to more resources.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense,
right.
But that doesn't make any sense in the game world, because as Dan described, it's a construct that it's supposed to anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I don't.
This trolling is the same thing, where I respect a good troll.
Mm-hmm.
If you can do a good troll that it's clever or is satirical, like even if I don't agree with the message, I can respect pulling off a good troll, but just making shit up,
yeah,
as like every day as a gag.
I mean,
to rile people up. I don't know.
the immediate response is just like, can't you find something better to do? But then again, that's a dangerous path because, well, maybe they must be getting some kind of enjoyment, or unless they're fooling themselves into thinking that they enjoy it when they're really just desperate for something. I don't know, but at the same time, I do probably do weird shit where people are like, find something better to do. So I don't ever want to judge what people do in their spare time. But at a certain point, it's like, come on, man. Like, this obviously isn't like, is cheating really hitting those buttons that make you feel like you're growing as a person? You know, I don't know.
They should do. Yeah, it's I don't know. It's funny when it's in the orbit of the Star Trek world because it's like it's a TV show.
Yeah.
And it's like, come on, just have some fun. And it's supposed to be a nice TV show about like being nice to people and not being a fucking piece of shit.
Spreading lies, like you said, spreading lies about what the producers said. It's just absurd. Whatever.
Yeah. Well, and the whole like, oh, it's all been canceled. They're all fired. And it's like, well, then why do they keep renewing shit and making new TV series like this Georgiou TV series that is the one that's had the most tepid response, but I'm guessing they're going to continue forward with it. Hopefully, I think it'll be interesting.
Do they have any other shows in the works?
They have Strange New Worlds, of course, the Captain Pike show, and then they have the Star Trek Prodigy, which will be on Nickelodeon, which is going to be more targeted towards an animated show targeted towards children, with Kate Mulgrew reprising her role as Captain Catherine Janeway, coffee lover extraordinaire.
Oh, from the show?
Yeah, she likes coffee.
Yeah. I like my coffee.
Yes, that's one of her lines.
Don't talk to me before I've had my coffee.
Even though she loves coffee, but she's got a magic teacup.
Do you ever want to buy one of those shirts that says like, "Not until I've had my coffee"? One of those shirts.
Yeah. I do. I do occasionally want to buy one of those shirts. What the fuck do you care?
I'm sorry, man.
I might be a little touchy about that. I'm a little embarrassed that I want to buy one of those shirts.
That was me being judgmental, like I was afraid of before, about judging people who troll.
There was a hint of it in there. An implication.
Oh man.
But to be fair, the reason I'm touchy about it is a little embarrassing.
You're a little shy. I hit on a nerve.
Yeah, because I like normally wearing like hip, cool graphic tees. Usually with like a Star Trek symbol on it or something,
Yeah, there's this new ad for
I'm wearing my disco shirt right now.
Word.
But it's under my sweater.
There's this new ad I've been seeing a lot lately for these shirts, and I've been tempted to buy them, but I see them so all over the place, so I think I feel like I'm wary. I'm like, there's something probably shady about this, but the shirt has this weird geometrical pattern that makes you look like you have a hole in your stomach or something like that. And it's all this weird shape that makes it look like,
you see that at Spencer's or something?
I see it online. They throw me ads for that stuff. They're throwing me all sorts of ads online on Google.
I think I've seen that.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
You get an ad, you get an ad, you get an ad, you get an ad, you get an ad.
Yeah, iTricks. I keep getting ads now for like women's apparel where the woman is turned around and then her those jammies, those onesies that have the poop chute on them where you unbutton the poop chute and you get to poop out of the hole,
Why are you getting those ads?
I've seen it in a cartoon, yeah.
Yeah, like the old coot usually wears it. Well, I'm getting the ads.
The old coot.
Totally.
I'm an old coot.
Some old coot pajamas.
Yeah, where
I'm just tapping my feet, pooping out the back of my shorts.
The reason they put gloves on Mickey Mouse is because you couldn't see his hands otherwise.
I haven't been eating right lately.
Yeah, so anyways, they've been sending me ads with women wearing sexy clothes with half the poop chute open, and I've been kept trying to say, like, I don't want to see this ad. I'm guessing it's for presents. It's like, buy your lady a weird
poop chute.
Weird poop chute jammies or something. I don't know. Anyways, that
Suspicious.
was...
She'll never have to take off her jammies
Somebody might be hopping on your Wi-Fi, Dan. You might want to get that. Change your password.
My password is legit.
Your password is dope, yo.
That's what it is. Dope 123 exclamation point. The newspaper Carl had. I meant to look up at the previous episode because he was...
the Star Dispatch. We talked about that last episode.
Yeah.
That was from the original episode with the Guardian of Forever.
Right, and this time the headline was Emperor Georgiou's fate uncertain, and I meant to find out what it previously said.
It was like
it said Dr. Emmett Brown Committee. We all saw that meme. I don't know who to give credit to.
That Carl guy was pretty rascally. Like when you're some kind of,
Paul Guilfoyle.
When you're some kind of powerful forever being, like a Q or a Guardian Forever, you probably get a little rascally over time.
Totally, yeah.
What else are you going to do with your
time?
He
was a little rascally. Now,
but she grabbed him at one point, like when Georgiou got pissed at him and grabbed Carl, and he gave her this look like, I won't do anything, but I totally could.
Yeah. a question for you all is, I liked Carl a lot. I liked his introduction. His introduction.
Coral.
Last
You know what that's
week.
from? Coral.
I don't know what that's from.
It's like a meme for Walking Dead because the son's name is Carl.
I've never seen The Walking Dead.
Yeah, but the meme was, it sounded like he was saying Coral.
Is it a Carl with a K or a C?
Carl, and the dude.
Or is it with a Q?
It was like a British guy with a heavy Georgian accent, so he's like Coral. Okay, I'm sorry. Go back to what you were saying.
Coral.
British guy with a heavy Georgian accent.
Yeah.
What I was saying was that I had I don't even know if you call this a nitpick. I might have preferred a different dramatic interpretation here. As much as I love Paul Guilfoyle, as much as I loved Carl, and the whole thing with the door last week I thought was clever and sci-fi and esoteric and intriguing, I kind of wish they didn't play this whole pretend game where it was like, who's this guy? And then it's like, I think he's the Guardian of Forever. And then this episode was like, I am the Guardian of Forever. To me,
You wish they never like revealed it?
No, I wish it had been real. It wasn't a hidden mystery. I kind of wish it was more they went down and all of a sudden there was the Guardian of Forever and they were like, what the fuck is this? And he's like, I'm the Guardian. You could have even had Paul Guilfoyle as the Avatar. I don't know. To me, it just seemed to like sort of stretch it out somewhat needlessly, especially since they provided all the clues in the first episode where he's reading the newspaper from, that Edith Keeler, that story was in, clearly connecting him to the character of the Guardian of Forever. That's one way I think they could have compressed the story a little. Maybe they didn't want to. I can understand that. I do like how it played out. I did enjoy every aspect of it.
They might have just done it so he could go like, I am the Guardian of Forever.
They kind of could have done that anyway.
Yeah, I guess you're right. But like it was more, maybe they thought it'd be more dramatic to say that, not that the reveal was more dramatic to wait, because I get what you're saying, but just to hear him say that would be more dramatic because you're like, whoa, this is weird. When I heard that, I was like thinking of that game where it's like, I am Sinistar.
Oh, no.
Run.
Oh, man, that game.
Well, I am Sinistar.
I think that
hunger, mortal.
Yeah. Run. I am the Guardian of Forever. Yeah, that's the worst one. He fucking screams at you and then comes out of nowhere, takes your ship out.
It sucks.
Sinistar.
The justification, I think, that does make sense is that the Guardian of Forever is in hiding, right? So I can justify the way it played out from that perspective because he even states it. I did think it was cool that he or they, explain the difference between TOS and this.
Yeah, it's weird because he says that I am the portal, so he is the portal, but obviously there's a portal and there's him. So you get this impression that it's just this being, this esoteric being.
He's a rascally wormhole guy.
Yeah, and he probably can inhabit all sorts of forms. And
but in TOS, it was a little bit more lackadaisical. Like, go ahead, go have fun. He and they call it out right here.
Yeah.
And now because of the temporal wars, he's hiding. So, I do buy why he might not have wanted to reveal totally who he was, but it was still a little.
And it's a different planet, right?
It is a different planet, yeah. And he said that he had changed locations because he didn't want to get abused by the temporal war people who were just like, I guess fucking around with him.
Yeah, when he was referencing it, he was talking about, he said, basically the rule is just don't screw up history and you'll have to fix it. And then they used him and they ruined it for everyone, is basically like that kid who pees on the poster in the bathroom in first grade. It's like ruins it for everyone. Now the teacher
ruins what, the poster?
Well, that
or peeing.
I'm sure the poster could probably handle it, but ruins the kid's ability to, now the teacher probably has to it might be illegal, but you get the point I'm making.
What are you doing? No, I don't. I don't. You're talking about the teacher doing illegal shit to a kid.
It's like, it's like first grade or kindergarten or whatever, and so kids had the responsibility they could pee on their own, but now because kids are peeing on the poster, the teacher now has to sit in and watch the kids pee to make sure they don't do that.
I get where you're going.
That probably doesn't really happen, but that kind of idea. So they ruined it for everyone because, that
it's
Guardian
just such
of Forever,
a funny example.
Yeah, but it's the only one I could think of.
You can just go in after the kid took a piss to see if he pissed on the poster.
That kid who peed on the poster was me.
I wondered.
Yeah, and the teacher pointed it out afterwards. It's like, someone urinated on the poster. And I thought I was going to get away with it. I just was peeing, and
I would have gotten away with it if it weren't for those damn kids.
Yeah, right. There's full of kids. It was like intrusive thoughts, they call it, when you like, you're at the edge of a cliff and you're like, part of your head is saying, just jump. This one was like peeing on the wall, and I just did it without thinking, have you ever done that?
Sometimes.
Yeah, sure.
I did that once with soda and a straw at a restaurant. I filled the straw with soda, and I did that thing where you put your finger on one end and like make it stick. And then I put my mouth on the other end, and I started like blowing and sucking on it to keep it in there. And then I was like, I'm gonna remove my finger as I'm blowing, and it like sprayed the whole table. And my dad's like, "Why'd you do that?" I'm like, I don't know. I don't know why I did that.
I've done similar stuff.
Maybe your mirror universe, Dan.
Whoa.
Yeah, you switch places.
Do you think this is not at all possible, I don't think, or practical, or just it would be silly. But maybe Prime Georgiou is actually Mirror Georgiou, because she's made her redemption and then gone back in time, and then she makes it up to that era again, and she's good Georgiou now. Maybe it was the same person all along. Because Prime Georgiou, Mirror Georgiou comes in after Prime Georgiou, and the Mirror Georgiou, that's the beginning of George. So the beginning of Georgiou's story
That'd be some wild shit.
So the beginning of Georgiou's story would happen after Prime Georgiou already died. The beginning of Mirror Georgiou's story happens, like I said, the beginning of it happens then, and she's all fucked up, and then over time she learns and becomes better, and then she goes back in time, and then somehow she gets a position on the ship. And then you'd have to explain, though, what happened to real Prime Georgiou. You could just kill her off in something else, I guess, and maybe she dies in some kind of battle or something, and Mirror Georgiou's like, oh, man.
She did die when she got killed by the Klingon.
Yeah, she died, and then that would be the end.
You're saying that's a fake death?
No, what I would be saying is that the beginning of... the beginning of Georgiou's story... Mirror Georgiou's story began when we first saw her, and then she goes forward in time, she learns lessons, and she comes all better. She goes back in time before she dies, and then...
Sounds exhausting.
And so Prime Georgiou, who dies in the show, in like the first few episodes or whatever, that's actually Mirror Georgiou at the end of her story, at the end of her arc. You know what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that's at the end of her arc. But then you'd have to explain what happened to the original Prime Georgiou. And I'm guessing it's something like, well, original Prime Georgiou was like died in a battle. And then Mirror Georgiou is like, oh, I need to take her place so I can guide Michael. And then she did the old switcheroo.
What happened to original Lorca?
I was sad that we didn't get to see sexy Lorca.
Yeah.
That seemed to be like everybody was hoping that he was going to pop up, and then everybody was like, it doesn't look like he's coming next week. And everybody's like, oh, no.
Yeah,
Jason Isaacs is pretty awesome. He's awesome on Twitter, by the way. If you don't follow Jason Isaacs, follow him on Twitter. He's entertaining.
Yeah, it was kind of a letdown when they go, I guess, to Burnham's like, I guess he's not coming or whatever. And it's like they meant that like in real life to the audience too.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's not an actual theory I have about Georgiou. I mean, I guess technically it is, but it's not something that I'm gonna bet any money on. But because it seemed like it would have to be really convoluted to pull that off. But you see, you think that in some mirror universe, you think that plot could happen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could happen.
It could happen to you.
It could happen here.
It could have already happened to me.
Oh shit. When she saved Saru, it was like an optional mission that she completed. Because Carl was like, you didn't have to save that Kelpian. But she did. It was like an optional mission, so she got extra experience points.
Yeah, Carl didn't even
XP.
care about the Kelpian. He didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
Wasn't Carl was saying that Carl was saying that you didn't have to, but you did, and that is evidence that you are a better person.
Yeah, and I'm saying it was
He
like
wasn't saying you didn't have to, you would have still passed the test.
No, he was saying, oh no, I think she would have passed the test even if she hadn't saved the Kelpie.
You think she would have gotten like a B minus, but instead she got like a B plus?
I think it's like when you complete the mission in a video game, and then you have the optional missions that you can complete to get extra money and XP.
And then she'll have that going into the new game.
Yeah,
which is the new series.
Continue her game. Because
Whatever
her game
series.
it's not game over for Georgiou yet, as we all know.
1970s Private Eye.
Whoa.
Hotel detective.
Whoa.
She's a hotel detective in San Francisco in 1970s.
Orgies.
Maybe she goes back to like, was it like the 40s San Francisco with like Dixon Hill?
Yeah, she meets the real Dixon Hill.
Meets the real.
Maybe
Dixon
she writes the Dixon Hill novels.
Yeah, that'd be even better.
And that's how she influences Picard in the future. who is inexplicably really into
Yeah.
Dixon Hill novels for some reason.
Do you think I feel kind of weird asking this, but I was wondering, it popped through my head, but I was wondering if Saru was also, because he was doing her hair, do you think he was also bathing her, Georgiou, as well?
I was wondering about that. Yeah,
Like doing the
I was
whole
wondering
kit and
about that.
caboodle.
Yeah, because whenever it's pretty classic in a movie or TV show that when there's a female sort of ruler, they have,
I think the males do as well. Like the
Yeah.
Lord Grantham on Downton Abbey.
Okay, it comes in a different format. It manifests differently though, because it's always like a woman in a bath, and then the men give her the towel as she sexily steps out of the bath. And so guys don't. It's not. I don't think it's generally seen as
Yeah, but that's like in,
as sexy for a man to have a bunch of women surrounding. I'm not saying that it is or not. I'm saying that.
but those are just movies that were produced by men.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm saying I'm not saying like I agree or whatever with it or disagree. It's just how, but that's just tends to be how it is. And so I was wondering. I guess they didn't say either way, so there's no way to know. But I was imagining
Maybe Terrans don't shower because they're afraid that showering too much would disrupt the biome of their skin,
Yeah,
their skin bacteria.
they need all that biology so it can eat their sweat germs and their hairy armpits.
Yeah,
And other parts.
Who knows? They
Who
got all
knows?
sorts of weird stuff going on in that mirror universe. The music is all crazy and electronica style. There's a couple things I noted about the music in this episode in particular, but also in the mirror universe generally. So we've discussed previously how in season 3 of Discovery, there's been more creepy future sci-fi electronic elements.
Yeah, I'm always into that.
A little more, sort of Blade Runner 2049 style, which has been pretty cool. But in the mirror universe, they've been like pushing that hard with like the kind of real creepy sci-fi stuff.
Although they did at one point when they were torturing Burnham, and there was that sort of montage of her getting food, and Georgiou was, narrating over top of that while she was getting food. They played that like dooga chicka, ha ha, that music that I pointed out last time.
Like the fighting music, the old TOS fight music style.
Dooga chicka, ha wah, that kind of music.
Do a few more bars just so we can be sure.
I feel like I already did it last week, and so I'm finding it hard to manifest my energy, but I can try. Dooga chicka, weep wop. Googa jaga, juga, boop, boop. Ha, ha. That's more like, ha, ha. Dooga chicka, ha, ha. Ha. Dooga chicka, ha. Hey, wah. So
Yankee Candle Home inspiration.
fragrance in every burn. I think it's lost some of the surprise element this week, but it played that music again when they tortured Burnham and set her food, and then she talked over it, and they went, Dooga chicka, ha, ha.
Well, there were a couple other odd but not necessarily bad choices. They sort of stood out to me when Georgiou was talking to Burnham all earnestly. There was like a couple bars that almost sounded like the Last of the Mohicans music, right? And then later,
Like the last 15 minutes of the movie, which is the best part.
Precisely.
that
And
everyone
then later, also while Georgiou was talking to Burnham, when Georgiou was talking to Prime Burnham, right before she walks through the Guardian of Forever, the music was briefly Lord of the Rings style, kind of like an adventure fantasy music.
Yeah.
It just stood out. It wasn't bad. It was just a lot of different flavors of music going on, some of them in intense contrast to others. So I don't know. I found that interesting. I wasn't sure if anybody else had noticed similar stuff.
Yeah, they always make interesting choices with the music. It seems to be pretty fun in Discovery. It's not boring for sure. I think, Burnham, her lips were all like pale blue and stuff. It made me think about the Agonizer. Okay, one weird decision. This is not on topic of Agonizer. That's what I was going to say is there was one part where she was sitting in the brig and there looked like there was incense smoke around her. I was like, why is there incense smoke?
Was that her body burning from the Agonizer?
Maybe her body. Maybe it was
Could've
leftover
been,
body
yeah.
burn. Can you die from the Agonizer? That's the thing.
I think eventually you could if they dial it up all strong.
Do you think they're
Not to 50! It's Princess Bride.
Yeah. Have fun storming the
I've
castle.
sucked 1 year of your life away.
Do you think there's any kind of long-term damage from getting from the Agonizer?
There's got to be. Yeah.
It doesn't seem...
Probably got to make your hand shake over time.
It
kill
doesn't seem
nerves.
chill.
Yeah. I mean, the real secret...
There's at least some kind of PTSD from that shit.
Yes. So the real deal with this Agonizer that they got to perfect is it has to have no long-term side effects, and they should just be able to leave you in that overnight, and then the next day come out, and you're basically fine. That would be fucked up.
Yeah, but like a side effect from their point of view, probably it wouldn't be. They'd be like, yeah, whatever, we're already fucked up. Like so.
It probably makes
It's
them...
just how life is in
Yeah, but it still hurts. Still hurts like shit.
Yeah.
Still hurts inside.
But that's
didn't you remember
that's
when-
how that's
you
what they understand. They understand pain and rage.
But don't you remember when Stamets in the previous episode, Stamets and the other two people were playing that agonizer
right.
game? They could only last a
Some
few
kind
seconds.
of agonizer table game. Or
Yeah, they could only last a few seconds.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There was a line Georgiou said that out of context was kind of messed up. She was talking to Burnham. She goes, "I was sad when you outgrew your night terror."
Yeah.
I mean,
That was a really touching monologue by Georgiou.
it was, and she was sad when she outgrew it because she couldn't walk to the Firefly field anymore, and so. But out of context, it's like that's kind of messed up. But it's still kind of messed up because that might have been a nice moment for you, but all she knew was night terrors.
And she said,
and I guess she might not have grown.
Well, it was interesting because it was this powerful scene, brilliantly acted by Michelle Yeoh, and then she says in it, but you never remembered when you woke up. And I wasn't clear. I kind of got the impression they were sending the message, you've got to communicate these things. Because what happens is she leaves the Fireflies for Burnham, and Mirror Burnham wakes up and hatches a plot to, betray her again, right? The Fireflies don't help because she doesn't remember that shit.
Right.
And,
That's a good point.
it was a one-sided relationship, and that's useless. And I think that is one of the changes you notice when Emperor Georgiou gets back to Prime Burnham, is she's immediately being more communicative, as you noted earlier, Dan. And I think that's maybe one of the lessons she learned, is that you may perceive you have a certain relationship with somebody or certain shared experiences, but if they're not truly shared, if you don't communicate that, then the experience is meaningless, right? It's only affecting you. It's not affecting that other person at all.
That's a good point.
And maybe the idea being that she wasn't able to change Mirror Burnham at this point in time, but perhaps she realized that maybe if she had done things differently, raising Mirror Burnham, that was where her responsibility really lay. That she created. It wasn't the genes, as you said, Dan. But she created Mirror Burnham by the way she was raised.
Yeah, and what was it? Burnham was talking about how she had her like little garbage pile that she was living on, and I can understand that bitterness of being like, this was my garbage pile. I have control over this. This is mine, and now I may it's like the whole rule in hell or servant in heaven, which is better or whatever. And so as long as Georgiou is alive, so she's going to be all bitter about that. I'm surprised. It seemed pretty, well, it seemed to me like it was no surprise that Burnham didn't actually turn, and she was still plotting against, I mean, I don't know if that was surprising to you guys.
I expected it, and I wasn't surprised when Georgiou had the backup plan, but I was like, yeah, that's awesome. Because it made sense. It was a logical way to respond.
I started to see it coming that Burnham was going to try again.
Yeah. I mean, there was other things that was very obvious that I didn't pick up on, but it seemed to me like, I don't know if she's just, the way she was like, okay, mother, I'm with you now, mother. It didn't seem.
You can trust me now.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And
it's okay. You can trust me.
And I don't know. I mean, is it the kind of thing where Georgiou didn't see it coming, or did she know it was going to probably happen, but she just had to try to do her best anyway?
I think the latter. Yeah.
Just like she knew it might be doomed, but she just had to. You just have to go with it and hope, I guess.
I think, and that's where the proof, insofar as it is proof, again, that's a debatable point whether this sort of redemption could really happen so quickly. And some people argue it hasn't happened quickly. Georgiou has been out of the mirror fold for quite a long time now, doing various things.
Yeah, Georgiou must, it's the whole, she's seen a gradual change in herself, so she probably barely notices it, but she must have been weird as shit to everybody. In the Terran.
I think
universe.
so. Everyone reacted like she was acting super weird. For them, at some point, it took some of them longer than others.
I would have liked to have seen Oo more involved in this episode, because I remember when you brought up last week how she like kind of gave Burnham a look, not Burnham, Georgiou a look when Georgiou was not going to kill Burnham. And so
it was the first time she looked at her with anything other than adoring loyalty.
Yeah.
So I kind of expected maybe something would come of that, but it didn't.
Yeah, there's no.
She was still loyal.
Yeah, she's kind of this sort of like character that supports not like your classic sense of a supporting character, but you know what I mean. The cheerleader kind of character, or like the go, I got your back kind of thing. But like I want to see more sort of like character from OO a lot because she's kind of a badass. And
Oh, she's a badass.
in the last episode, I saw her kind of in a different, before this one, I started seeing her in a different light because I was like, whoa, she's
beating the fuck out of Reese, right?
yeah, and she looks awesome doing it, you know? So Burnham was saying to Georgiou, I knew you were on to me at the christening of the Karen. And
Which wasn't a newsflash because she walked away and immediately was captured.
Yeah, I really thought you would kill me. Yeah, it wasn't a newsflash also because, like, Georgiou stabbed Stamets, you know, so maybe she meant, like, Georgiou stabbed Stamets when
Stab Stamets.
I would imagine that when Georgiou stabbed Stamets, Georgiou at that stab Stamets, stab Stamets, stab Stamets, stab Stamets, stab Stamets.
I broke him.
When Georgiou stabbed Stamets, you would guess if she didn't know up to that point that Burnham was up to something, she would have probably guessed it by then. So who knows? Maybe Burnham knew it before the weird rhyme play. Cirque du Soleil.
I think she knew it at that Stamets point. I will. There was a part. I'm curious if anyone can give me an explanation here because
what did you say? Did you think that she knew, like, Burnham knew it before?
No, I think she knew it after. Once Georgiou stabbed Stamets. Is that how did I say it properly?
Stab Stamets. That was the point where you think Burnham figured it out?
I think Burnham figured it out at that point.
Yeah, and it's like, no shit.
I think it was a little awkward in this episode because this is the second part of a two-parter. Yeah, a week has passed. But in the story, I guess maybe some time is supposed to pass. I'm not entirely clear, but the point being that we know that. Burnham's not, it's obvious. She doesn't have to be like, it's a little expositioning. And Discovery has had this problem in the past. The third season has largely avoided this, but it's a little bit more like you're saying things out loud that don't need to be said because everybody already knows them. It's an awkward conversation.
So you thought that was like an example of, like, you didn't really need to point out.
But there was something that I did get confused by because it didn't make any sense to me, and I watched it. You know, it didn't make sense the second time through, and I even rewound and tried to watch it a couple times. It's that scene where they show the Discovery. And then a shuttlecraft leaves Discovery.
Oh, yeah.
And then they're talking about, they're all like, you go to Ryza because we need to see this Duggan guy.
Oh!
And then...
Hacksaw, did you ever remember Hacksaw Jim Duggan?
Yeah, Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Oh!
A worldwide wrestling federation fellow.
Yeah.
As I recall.
Duggan. Oh!
So then they say, Georgiou says, okay, let's go to Ryza to find this guy. And then Killy is all like... doesn't this seem like below whatever? Mm-hmm. And then, you know, Georgiou's all like, you can take a shuttlecraft to go. And then Killy says that. And then Georgiou's like, you're right. It sounds fun. I'll do it. And then you're like, oh, okay. So she's going to go in a shuttlecraft with Burnham. But then they don't do that.
Yeah.
But then this other shuttlecraft left, and then the ship just goes to warp. None of it made any sense to me, and I wasn't sure if they like had to change something, and they didn't have time to change the special effects or something. I was a little confused by what was going on there.
Yeah, right. They were supposed to go on some kind of errand run, like some kind of mission errand, get the away team together or something.
Who was in the shuttlecraft, and where were they going? It wasn't related to the other shuttlecraft. And then they of course, they get to Ryza, and then there's a shuttlecraft there, but it's not like it's not a Federation or Terran shuttlecraft. It's some other kind of just random ass shuttlecraft. I remember thinking like, and I remember thinking at that point like, and they're at Ryza. Okay, cool. We get another little moment in Ryza. But like, yeah, they never just in orbit of Ryza. Maybe they just ran out of money and they wanted to make Ryza all awesome.
What do they call that? And what's that thing in Ryza with it?
The Horgon.
The
Horgon, the little statue.
Yeah, but it's
the sex statue.
It's like the
Horgon.
They said it a lot in the episode of Lower Decks.
Yeah, the Horgon.
Yeah, but no, there's a different word. It's like it starts with an A.
The Jamaharan.
Jamaharan.
You use the Horgon to indicate that you want to participate in Jamaharan.
That's what I was looking for.
Jamaharan.
I thought Jesse was being silly, and then it turned out he was totally being legit.
Some Jamaharan sounds pretty good now.
Yeah, right about now.
Right? All right. We'll wrap up the podcast.
It's like a kind of curry.
Yeah. But maybe they
pull out our Horgon.
Maybe Ryza is really expensive to do, and they ran out of money or something, and couldn't take it out or something.
Maybe this is before Ryza is like the fun sex planet.
No, this is after. This is wait. No, you're right.
This is in the past.
It's in the past. In the mirror
remember
universe.
thinking about that. I remember remember having this problem where they were warping around. I was like, wait, where'd they get all the dilithium? They have a little left, the dilithium left? How are they warping around?
They can do that.
I was having a lot of these
And they don't have a spore drive.
Right, and they don't...
I don't think they have a spore drive.
I didn't even think about
Yeah, I don't
that.
think
I
Mirror
doubt it.
Discovery has
I
a
doubt it.
spore drive.
I didn't even think
so it's
about
already
that.
a little anachronistic because it's like, well, why is it built the way it is? I thought it was
Yeah.
built that silly way for the spore drive.
Yeah, and so...
Maybe it's a failed spore drive. Maybe they just couldn't get it to work.
I was having some problems with my time lore, like what is available when.
Time lore.
Time lore. I was having some problems with my time lore.
Time lore.
Every villain is always going on about how people will sing songs about them. Burnham said that. They'll sing songs about me. Every villain. They're all about people will say
Mostly
even,
the Klingons.
and good guys say it. Good people say it too.
Yeah, it's mostly the Klingons.
But even in other shows, it's all about. That's another one of the one of the tropes being, kiss me on the lips. That's an order, and you.
that's sexual harassment.
Right, yeah,
That's what that is.
Let me save your life. That's an order. That's a more appropriate one. That trope. And then the other trope is they will sing songs about me. But Klingons, Klingons are okay because they do it in more of a jovial, sing-songy kind of.
And they actually sing songs.
They
about each
drink
other.
ale and you're but yeah. But Burnham said it much more angsty, they'll sing songs about me.
We don't do that much. We should do more of that. What's the last pop song that was a ballad about some event? I know they
Wait, what kind of question is that?
It's a question. It's a perfectly fucking valid question.
About some event. A ballad about an event.
Yeah, like the ballad of...
Ballad of...
it doesn't have to be a ballad, but
There's
lyrics,
the Ballad of Bilbo Baggins.
the lyrics...
Ballad of Buster Scruggs, isn't that movie?
Yeah, but that's a movie.
Okay.
I mean a song, exactly what you're describing, a song about heroic feats.
It probably
Yeah.
happens in country music.
What about those 80s hair ballads, those power ballads from the 80s?
Like Jeremy's Spoken, but that's not about a heroic thing.
Jeremy? Yeah. That's not really about...
Janie's Got a Gun. I mean, it's more depressing than
Yeah, there's
anything.
really nothing to celebrate in either of those songs.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the other part where I brought the show to a stop. Is when Burnham, I was talking about Burnham's Ripley mouth and her teeth, gritting her teeth and her tongue going at the edge of her teeth and everything all being its own. Her mouth was its own character in this episode. At one point, I think it was because Georgiou was all about the line of, okay, first of all, Georgiou wants to give her people some amount of hope, is what she was trying to point across. She was talking about even Genghis Khan let his
Genghis
conquered
Khan.
people, worship who they wanted to. And whereas, so she was like, we got to give these people some hope or else so they'll stop rebelling. And Burnham is pointing out they're more like their tradition of a scorched earth policy, right? Where it's just follow or be killed. So Georgiou is saying that it's a better tactic, right? To be, to not try to fucking kill everyone all the time. It's better to show some mercy or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And which
Just-
there's some evidence for that.
Yes, there is.
Totally.
So is this compassion or pragmatism on Georgiou's part, though? Because when she's telling this to Burnham that we should be nicer to these people so they follow us, is that just an excuse? Is Georgiou really have compassion for these people? And it's we don't need to kill these people. Let's not do it. Or was she honestly being practical and just saying this works better if we lure them in?
It could be both. I mean,
Yeah.
they're not mutually exclusive. You do have to. Sometimes you do have to sacrifice something in order to achieve a good or the greater good, but not always. So oftentimes the greater good is accompanied by and in fact a function of doing things in a way that makes more sense, that causes less death, less pain, more productivity, more happiness. I guess a lot of that comes down to, your philosophies. You could look at this story as a sort of semi-example of being careful of what beasts you might create through your own actions.
Yeah.
If you rule through propaganda that stresses power over everything, well, then you're trapped, because then if you show the slightest weakness, and by the way, it does not in fact have to be an actual weakness. If you do something that is perceived through the lens of the culture you've created and nurtured, is perceived as weakness, they're going to come and fucking murder you. And that limits your options, right? So if you want absolute power, you don't have it, because now you have to operate within these strict confines. And Georgiou, transformed by her influence, being influenced by the, Prime Burnham and the crew and all her other experiences, now doesn't even really have the option to do what she wants to do because it accelerates her demise in the end, right?
Burnham's response to that, though, is there are no spoils from peace, which is kind of an interesting line because I guess if the way you want to get your treasure is by like stealing from people,
it's
and
very well written.
Yeah,
Because the spoils is yes, you're right. There are no spoils from peace, as in the definition of spoils being something
right.
you,
it's like, no, you don't
take off of somebody.
Right, you don't get to dominate and take something, which, yeah, right, it was well written, right, because it's sort of saying that
Still
Burnham...
a profit, though.
Well, Burnham likes the spoils, but she also likes the process of dominating people. So, right, so, because you still get stuff from peace, it's not called, like you said, it's not called spoils, it's something else.
There's something that I think it's interesting for people to consider, both in fiction and in real life, is if you really look deep at the structures of power and everything, you can kind of divide things into two sides, and one is calories and one is power, right? And calories is what people have wanted from, the dawn of humankind, right? Control of calories is control over your own destiny. It's control over survival. More and more calories is better, right? When you can start storing calories in grain silos and things like that, you can last through the winter. You can have more people. You can expand your civilizations and all these things, right? Power is associated with that because if you can control the calories, then you can have power. But that only goes to a certain point because then you get to the point where you have unlimited calories. Everyone can do it. Everyone's, fat and happy. So now some people are satisfied by that. They're like, all right, we're good. That's kind of the Federation in the Prime universe in a lot of ways. We won't get into the particulars, but the basic idea is we're good because we have taken care of everybody. Everyone's good and they can live their lives the way they want. And that's what we're good at. But then there's the people who actually want power, as in they want to keep that whole, like, I can control people's behaviors. I can organize the fucking universe to my design.
Yeah, because that's kind of an ongoing...
Even if it's already working well.
It's like SimCity or something. You get to just keep playing it. You don't really beat
Keep fiddling with it.
Yeah.
Just use the cheat codes so you can have an unlimited budget.
Yeah.
Lower the taxes.
Mm-hmm. Always make sure to give 100% to your roads.
Yes. Put train tracks everywhere.
Yeah, train tracks.
Yeah, I would just use train tracks and not put in roads because then you don't have any traffic.
Apparently,
situation.
you didn't.
Where we're going, we don't need
train tracks.
Roads.
I think it was roads. You didn't need to have like them to connect at the corners either. You could just put like little non-connecting railroad tracks around. Didn't make any sense. So the line I was talking about that went along with this discussion that they were having, and she was with her animated mouth, and then she goes, because they were talking about how they were the coalition, which is Romulans, Andorians, Tellarites, Klingons, and then the Denobulans and the Rigelians and the Caridonites. They'll follow suit.
Denobulans.
And so Georgiou was saying, "Hey, we can't take all the this. This is too much. We're gonna get overwhelmed." And then Burnham goes like, well, they would think twice about alliances if we flew down and roasted them on spits.
Spitted Denobulans.
I can't even do it. But
she's speaking some parcel tongue.
Spits. She did parcel tongue. Oh, like a snake?
Yeah, that's snake language from Harry Potter. Harold Potter.
Harold Potter. So anyway.
Harold Potter, MD.
Like snake jazz.
Snake jazz.
This is my jam now.
Yeah. So, wow.
I think that covers the bulk of the episode.
Can we do odds and ends now?
It's about time for that classic segment, odds and ends. Odds as in numbers, ends as in the end pieces of the deli meat. When I used to work at a deli, people were always coming in and they always wanted to get those end pieces for free. At the end of the bologna, of the Gelbwurst.
Did you give him
Schinkenwurst.
That seems like a lot to ask.
We wouldn't generally give it for free. We would weigh it out. We were like, you can buy it, but the thing is those ends were what you'd chop up to make the put it put it in the soups and in the German potato salads and the German meat salads.
That's a restaurant I worked in. They had an awesome lobster chowder, and what they just did is they took the leftover bits from lobsters that they would cut up to put in the pasta. They'd had these end bits that they were just throwing away, and they made it into chowder. It was fucking good, and they didn't have to charge much because they were
end bits chowder.
End bits chowder. Odds and ends.
Rekha Sharma
Landry dead again. I think it's the third time in this series.
Yeah, man.
Because didn't she get killed in the first Mirror Universe thing? Because she got killed in Prime Universe. I think she got killed in the first. I could be remembering that wrong, but I think so. Maybe not, but dead this time.
For sure.
Mirror Nielsen is a brunette.
Mirror Nielsen's a brunette.
Whoa.
Mirror Arium also dies with a weird, crazy fucking phaser shot to the head.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa.
The Georgiou stabbing Mirror Michael was kind of awesome. It was pretty fucked up.
So that was a weird scene. It was cool. That's one of those scenes that I watched over and over and over again because it was a little.
You're a psychopath.
Yeah. No, the sword, because it looked a little weird.
It just punched right through.
It punched right through it, and it almost wavered as if there was no resistance to the body. It was just wavering around, which made it look a little janky. It was awesome, but if you look at closely, once she stabs her, you can kind of see it wiggling about because obviously she probably just stabbed air and her hand moved about. But it was pretty fucking crazy. It was so crazy that I didn't even notice that she got stabbed in the neck.
Yeah, she totally got stabbed in the neck.
Yeah, so that was kind of one of those weird special effects scene that looked awesome, but the sword all wiggling around in there was kind of weird.
Odds and ends.
Jet Reno came back on the show.
Yeah,
Gnawing on some licorice.
Yeah, that was great because she's like, "This isn't food; it's candy." It's practically an accessory. That's my favorite Jet Reno line to date.
Yeah, Stamets goes I haven't seen you since the dawn of time, which has got to be some kind of weird time joke. But it was true. She disappeared for a while.
Yeah, there was a few episodes.
And then she said she was realizing her lifelong dream of taking us from plasma to fully polaric warp conduits. And they were fucking up with her backup cells or something. So.
What a great character.
Yeah, and that's when Adira told her to stop chewing on the candy, and I thought Book was being a little forward when he was telling her to stop eating the candy. It's Book.
He's you're not allowed to eat in here.
Nah.
He's who are you, Book?
Well, he read the book. I mean, no pun intended. Stop that. No pun intended. It's just his name. It's just his name. He read the technical manual.
He read the field manual, and what is it? But then Reno was that's not in the field manual or whatever. Then he read the technical manual. He says, "Oh yeah." She goes, "None of this is in the field manual." Yeah. So apparently you can amplify subspace, which sure, why not? But I thought that coming into a conversation where there's two people who are obviously three people who are Starfleet, and you're not Starfleet, and you're telling one of them not to eat candy. It's who are you to tell him not to eat candy? It's you're not Adira had a right to tell her that.
Adira's All Earth Defense Force or something.
But I was saying Book had no right. Because he told her to not eat candy either.
Right.
And he came into the conversation, he has to assume that either that was already addressed or it was no big deal. Why would he care if she's eating candy?
What do you care? By the way, something.
He's not Starfleet.
What do you care?
He has a cat on his fucking ship. The cat's eating all over the place and peeing and pooping.
Yeah, really.
And leaving fur on the console and shit.
I think it was he read the field manual. It said no eating licorice. In engineering, it gets the sticky shit gets on the panels and shit.
So the line itself, none of this is in the field manual. In and of itself, isn't that funny? But the Tig Notaro's delivery of
she's
it makes
brilliant.
it.
No, she's brilliant.
I actually laughed out loud at that for whatever reason.
And I know that she is only a recurring character and will probably remain so. But I do hope they find a way to. Free her up from some of her other obligations to do some more episodes in the upcoming seasons because she's a highlight character of the show every time she appears.
Yeah, odds and ends.
That guy Duggan, he was in Aliens. The actor who played him. What was I'm trying to remember what his name was.
Mr. Mittens.
Yeah, I can't remember his name now. But he was Private Spunkmeyer in Aliens. Nice. And he was on The Expanse as Anthony Dresden.
Right on. That's awesome.
For those of you who enjoy The Expanse.
I think I recognize.
I liked Killy's reaction when she was torturing Burnham when Burnham didn't tell her the conspirator. She was Killy was asking for the conspirators and Burnham was like, "No way, dude." And Killy made that kind of pouty, frowny face, "Aw," but it was totally she was into it. She's yeah. But she gave the look was amazing, and then
Mary Wiseman's fantastic.
Yeah, and then while she was being tortured, Killy was just laughing with this maniacal. She just had this crazy smile on her face. So that's weird that Killy would have to put up with Burnham at that point, because how that's got to be uncomfortable, right? You're tortured, suddenly you're working together. I don't know. The brig, okay, I know that force fields are reliable and stuff, but I would be nervous about confidently walking through a cell force field that was tuned to the frequency to let me through. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know how Burnham couldn't walk through the force field, but Georgiou was. She just walked out the force field.
Yeah, the computer knows who people are.
No, totally, and that's not what I'm arguing about, and I'm not arguing about.
What if it's off just by like a millihertz, and then you get burned or something?
Yeah, so they put a lot of faith in because they put so much faith in the shields.
Faith of the heart.
Total eclipse of the fart. Because they put so much faith in shields, I'm like, this is gonna work fine, no problem. They got this shit down. But there's still a part of me that I would definitely put my hand out every time, like just to make sure. What if someone was playing a prank on you? And like
exactly,
you know, or if like you said, even it's just one of those unreasonable,
or trying to assassinate you because you're a murderous dictator.
Yeah, so I would, and you know, Jesse, like you said, what if it's off by a millimeter and it doesn't seem like it would be, but that part millihertz, sorry, my fault. But like, it's that same part of my brain that gets freaked out when I'm opening the door because I think those terror dogs from Ghostbusters are gonna pop around the corner.
What about the terror dogs from Resident Evil?
I don't worry about them as much.
I worry about those more than the Ghostbusters.
See, the Resident Evil thing, that was legitimately like the first time I was super scared. Doom kind of scared me a little bit at times.
Doom was scary too.
Yeah, but this one, when I saw that, I was like, ah.
I worry more about Slimer. I know Slimer's supposed to be charming, but Slimer seems like an obnoxious pain in the ass to have to deal with in your fucking house.
Yeah, he seemed kind of scary. He's
all
him.
Yeah.
Well, there's like
around.
the cartoon Slimer, and then there's the movie Slimer.
Yeah, the cartoon Slimer is somewhat more sympathetic.
Yeah,
he's cute. He's more like a cat.
He's got a goofy voice and a.
Odds and ends.
So yeah, that shield, that's future throws me off.
And also consider, as people have mentioned on the internet, they said you always got to remember with the mirror universe that they have more advanced technology in a lot of ways than the equivalent Prime timeline because the Defiant went back in time and they cannibalized that technology back from the Enterprise days, and so they've already had like a bit of a head start. In fact, it's one of the things that maybe let the Terran Empire get as big as it did was because it had access to technology from the future, its future.
And I'm sure, like I said, I'm sure the force field letting you through is perfectly 100% awesome.
Cromulent.
Awesome all the time. But it's like Barclay being afraid of the transporter. It's an unreasonable fear I have. So it's my fault that I'm working with.
Did you notice that Georgiou had a Tantalus field in her office,
No.
like Kirk had? That monitor she was watching Burnham on when Burnham was getting tortured.
That was a good shot. I like that sort of background.
And it mimicked
It's like a horror movie.
if you remember, so for the audience out there, especially for you newcomers, we've often hinted at this not special. We recorded an extra episode last year as, you know, just to have a backup in case something terrible happened, like a worldwide pandemic. As it turns out, we can podcast in the pandemic, no problem. So we still have this episode. That episode we discussed Mirror Mirror from TOS. So I think we'll probably have to release that coming up sometime soon. It'll probably be appropriate to let that one out but in that episode we also discuss Kirk's use of the Tantalus field, and
that's right.
They didn't call it out by name in this episode. It wasn't overt, but it had similar, you know, had the buttons. The Kirk version was more like globular, but it was oriented in the same way, the kind of, you know, and then Killy even says you could kill her at the push of a button. Yeah, and the first time through I was thinking, yeah, you could go but what she really meant, I think, was the Tantalus field, which lets you just vaporize people anywhere on the ship.
Yeah, badass.
Speaking of killing, I can't remember what it is she said. There was remember when Burnham came and like threw the equivalent of like their dog tag or whatever, and it was all and then she was like, I killed all the co-conspirators, and then Georgiou looked at her and was just basically like, all of
what
them?
about Detmer?
Well, she didn't say that, right?
Right, but that's what she meant.
Well, yeah, obviously, because that's what she did. But I'm saying, like, when she looked at her and was like, I knew it. I knew it was going to be, I knew that she was going to stab Detmer right after that happened. I knew that.
I agree. I was not surprised by that, but it still worked. Even if it's expected, it's like, all right, they're going through the motions. This is the mirror universe. They all stab and kill each other.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was cool when she stabbed Detmer, but I was all like, I saw that coming.
And I thought it was a well edited scene. You know, it was like a little mini montage.
Yeah, because it was. Oh, wait, you're talking about which now?
I'm talking about all the murders.
Oh yeah,
and then. culminating with the Detmer murder.
Yeah, and the Detmer one, it was cool because she gave that look of like, oh man.
Oh man,
are you
Oh,
serious?
jeepers. Oh, my mom told me this was going to happen.
When they were talking about the coalition, I really wanted to know how Georgiou systematically used back channels to sabotage the coalition. Because that was just sort of a throwaway.
You're going to watch Star Wars Episode 1.
Oh, shit.
With the Trade Federation.
Oh, God.
And the that's the problem when you get too much into the weeds.
So but it just sounds so funny. She's like, I just systematically use back channels to sabotage the coalition. It's like there's all this shit that had to go into that. She's like, no problem, it was easy. And you can tell there was all this like action that had to go into that, but they just kind of...
It was just writing emails, though.
Yeah, probably it was just like, he called you stupid.
Yeah,
and,
basically. I have no doubt that's what it was.
Right. So obviously it's not something that would be entertaining to play out, but the way it was sort of like, wow, you really properly summated all of that into
like
one thing.
When they, we see it in Discovery when they're in the Mirror Universe and there's like Mirror Voke and Mirror Sarek and is that the coalition that she takes out?
Oh, it's the one that's made up of the Andorians, the Tellarites,
Denobulans,
Romulans, Klingons, and then the and the Regelians, and blah blah blah. And then they were talking after that got broken up. They're like, "Oh, you worried?" That is true because he was like basically saying the coalition is just some kind of like bureaucratic nonsense. But then they point out the Romulans and the Klingons teamed up. Why do you think the Romulans and the Klingons hate each other? It seems like Klingons are in your face.
They've always hated each other.
Well, yes, but like I was wondering, like what do you think is sort of behind that? And
I will retract that. It's stupid for me to say they always hated each other. Obviously, there was some sort of instigating situation.
But it just seems like their characters, like the Romulans, are kind of sneaky. Like they're
incompatible culturally.
Yeah, they're double speak. I don't want to say they lie, but they do that kind of deception. They're sneaky and
super sneaky
and deceptive. And Klingons are super in your face, bold, like we're gonna kill all of you. And so,
of course, there's plenty of sneaky ass Klingons like Duras.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's always exceptions. Right, so I would just imagine that the Romulans...
Duras was hooking up with the Romulans.
So I imagine Romulans just look at Klingons as kind of boorish or something, and the Klingons probably see Romulans as fake assholes.
I'm lamenting that I'm forgetting the details, and I forget how many details are sort of on-screen canon, but I do recall that there is some aspect of the beef between Romulans and Klingons being related to that they were teamed up at one point, and the Romulans, did some fucked up behind the scenes shit that fucked over the Klingons somehow. Something along those lines. I don't know how detailed they've gotten outside of the the novels and comic books and stuff. So,
eat any good books lately?
I think is
that the end of your odds and ends? I'll give you an odd and an end.
Well, I guess just like about book, I thought it was kind of like presumptuous of him to just plug in that thing without asking permission from Stamets and stuff first. When he just plugged in that Asira tech. Red Emerald Chain tech. I thought that was, even if he thought it was safe, he should have, you don't just go and start plugging shit into people's.
Just plugging shit in.
Yeah.
My odd end was the quote that I thought was a good and interesting quote was when Georgiou is talking to Mirror Saru and says, survive, that is how you honor them, referring to his family. Teach others what you know, that is how you avenge them.
Yes.
I thought that was a real Mirror Universe, like it's a weirdly positive message, but with that Mirror Universe sinister edge to it.
Right. Yeah, I noticed that too. And it's just like Georgiou's still kind of a reminder that Georgiou's still Georgiou, you know? Like she's, yeah, right. So.
But as Michael said, she was the mirror I never knew I needed.
Yeah.
Hey.
Which was another interesting quote. I know it's a little on the nose with the whole, Mirror Universe stuff, but I thought from a character perspective, it did, in a very brief few words, encapsulate so much of what made the relationship between Burnham and Georgiou interesting is that they antagonized each other, but it was because they each of them could recognize the flaws in the other and were sort of chipping away at them. And their advice to each other did at some level sink in to some degree on both ends. Burnham has become she's grown as a character, realized a little bit more about what some of her failings are and trying to correct them, especially her kind of hero obsession, having to save everybody kind of thing, which Georgiou in the previous episode put framed as being a form of control, that Burnham wants to control people, but she thinks she's doing it benevolently, but she's still just, fucking causing mutinies and just going against orders and shit because she wants people to bend to her will. And that's something that Burnham's already grown a little bit about over this season in particular.
I just want to say that the Kelpian, like watching Saru, I always like watching Kelpians kick some ass. Like when Saru throws the dude in the air, and like when they're coming in with these like fucking phaser rifles or whatever, like that whole thing is awesome. Burnham did some weird like front kicks, kicked one Kelpian and then at the same time punched another Kelpian in the face. It was really kind of an awkward thing. So I don't know. That was kind of a weird thing, but it was awesome seeing them kick some ass. I saw those flashy things in the cargo bay again near the end of the episode when the ship was flying away. It looks like there's flashy things, like cameras going off in the cargo bay near the end of the episode.
Maybe they're doing a concert. I think we mentioned before they might just be lighting lighters or something like that.
Another concert with lighting. Yeah, that's right.
They just got a lot of concerts. They got little operas going on.
I don't understand why Stamets and Adira need to use the tech under supervision. Like, who's going to supervise? Like, they're allowed to use the Emerald Chain tech, but Admiral Vance said under supervision. And it's like, who's going to supervise them? Like,
Saru's going to just be in there like, okay, everything looks okay.
Yeah, the salutes at the end. There was the Vulcan salute from Burnham, and then Georgiou did the non sort of Nazi Terran salute thing, which is
non-Nazi, the new and improved Terran salute.
Yeah. I also thought it was interesting how Saru said that Georgiou was deceased. And I don't know if that was just on his official report or if he was saying, like, for all intents and purposes.
Correct.
I don't know if he was basically just saying, well, it's the same thing. So I thought
6 of one, half a dozen of another.
Yeah, exactly. So,
if we're going to be tossing out colloquialisms, here.
I didn't know if Saru was saying that.
You got a whole fucking bag full of colloquialisms back here.
I didn't know if he was saying that simply because he wanted something to write on paper, or if he actually was telling her it's like she's dead. It's like you die, you go to a different dimension anyways. And what'd she do? She went to a different dimension, so she's dead. I don't know if he was being.
Well, she went back in time, so
he was being cool.
She's dead by now.
Yeah,
he was being cool about it. That's
a good point, Jesse. She is dead by now.
Yeah.
My strong impression was that Saru was he was being cool.
He was
being cool about it. He was like, hey, she's not coming back. Okay. Then she's deceased. I got you. And then he taps his nose.
But I can dig it.
Yeah.
Lastly, I guess we'll see what happens with this Captain Burnham situation. If Burnham will become captain, that will be interesting. And Book is also an interesting role now because he's kind of like Section 31 now, except he's chaotic good and not chaotic bad. Like Section 31 is like chaotic neutral.
Yeah, he's like Section 69 or something.
Yeah, man.
Comes in and just makes your day better.
But like he does all the stuff that Starfleet's not supposed to do, but he's doing it in good spirit. So yeah, Book is some kind of weird maverick guy now, which is I like that.
And he wears the nice leather jacket.
Yeah, he does, and sometimes a robe. Mm-hmm. On the bridge, he wears a robe.
All right. Well, I think that does it for us this week.
It's got Star Trek.
It has been Star Trek. And next week, I think the next week's episode is called The Citadel or something. Presumably, we've got 3 more episodes left, I think. Something like that.
We got 3 more episodes to watch.
So we're getting into the conclusion of this story's larger arc and hopefully some hints as to where we might be going.
It is, according to
next season.
IMDb is The Citadel.
The Citadel. So we will interpret what the hell that means next week. It's
probably going to be like Emerald Chain, maybe some kind of.
And I think it's a Christmas Eve episode, isn't it? Mm. I think it's a premiering on Christmas Eve.
Oh, interesting.
So some holiday cheer, some jingles and jangles,
jongles and jungles.
Santa landing on the roof of the Discovery and beaming in and just bringing presents to the whole crew.
Yeah.
Space Santa.
Eggnog.
Space Santa.
Yeah.
Space Nog. Oh, no, it'd be Synth Nog.
Synthenog.
You got to break out the real stuff. You got to fly by Ryza.
It's Christmas, damn it.
Fly by Ryza. Bring down your Horgon. Drink a bunch of eggnog and get into all sorts of Jamaharan. You get some Jamaharan over here in the rainy part. You get some Jamaharan over there in the beachy part.
No doubt.
Yeah, no doubt.
You're like a shrimp jamaharan or a chicken
Like you mean like an oyster jamaharan versus
or
a
an
shrimp
oyster.
jamaharan?
shrimp
Where the jamaharans all spilling out of the bun?
Yeah.
You know,
I bet an oyster jahamaran is pretty good.
an oyster jamaharan.
Just as long as you don't make it like all chewy. You make it like moist in the middle and crisp on the outside.
Yeah. Okay, so we're hungry, so we're going to sign off from this week's episode of the It's Got Star Trek podcast. You can reach us at feedback@itsgotstartrek.com. That's an email address. Derived from the email address is our website, which is www.itsgotstartrek.com. You can do all sorts of stuff there. The best thing you can do there is you can sort our podcast episodes by series. So if you're interested in a specific series, then you can click on that and sort by that. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Twitter at It's Got Star Trek. You can find us on Instagram there. You can find us. I don't think we're on LinkedIn currently. Write us and let us know if we should be on LinkedIn.
How does that even work?
We'll just go on LinkedIn. And
We show up in searches.
we can do articles and stuff on LinkedIn. But anyway, just type in It's Got Star Trek. You're going to find us every fucking
MySpace.
place you can find. Oh, that'd be cool if we had MySpace. We are on Facebook, though.
MySpace would be cooler.
MySpace would be cooler. Or
Probably
Friendster.
less Friendster. Probably less effective, but
You write in and let us know if we are not someplace you'd like us to be. And we'll
get
head
there.
over there.
Everywhere you want to be.
We'll head on over there. But in the meantime, have a lovely week.
they should be able to get us on Napster.
Yes, have a lovely week. Download our episodes on Napster if you like. And we will talk to you 1 week from today.
We're using long-range sensors to hack into a crashed ship. You're not allowed to have food in here.
This isn't food. It's candy. It's practically an accessory.